I want to just review the record, your record in office and the record of this administration to date. Since February, the first full month, of course, of the Biden administration, there have been 822,629 illegal crossing attempts encountered by CBP at the southwest border. Every single month of your tenure, we've seen over 100,000 illegal crossing attempts. Every single month in your tenure, illegal crossing attempts have increased. We've hit a 20-year record for illegal entries. We hit that last month. We've had a surge of young children across the border, placing these children in incredible danger and in the line of harm. On a single day in March, we had 6,000 children sitting in CBP custody, and including HHS facilities, we now have 15,000 migrant children currently in federal custody. In April, the number of deportations carried out by ICE fell to the lowest monthly level on record. Interior arrests by ICE have declined to about 2,500 arrests per month. That's down from 10,000 arrests per month under the previous administration. And the Washington Post and other news outlets have reported that with Border Patrol totally overwhelmed now by the surge of migrants crossing the border, the cartels are having an easier and easier time smuggling drugs across our border, which are going to states like mine, which are awash in drugs from across the southern border. Mr. Secretary, with all due respect, this record is an unmitigated disaster. It's a disaster. And I want to ask you to tell us and tell the American people now what you're going to do to change course.
Thank you, Senator, for your question. Let me respond in a number of different ways. First of all, the number of migrants apprehended at the borders began to increase in April of last year. Number two, it's very important to remember that the number of apprehensions, the number of encounters, does not equal the number of different individuals encountered. Because we are exercising the Centers for Disease Control Title 42 authority to expel individuals, that means they are quickly processed for identity and expelled. They're not placed in immigration removal proceedings before the expulsion. They often return and are expelled again.
Mr. Secretary, my time is very, very limited here. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I just want to be clear about something you just said. Are you saying that there has not been a dramatic surge in border crossings and unaccompanied children during your tenure, a historic surge? Is that your position?
That is not my position, and
Good.
Please allow me to finish my answer. What I am saying is that the number of encounters, the number of apprehensions, does not equal the number of different individuals apprehended, because we are seeing recidivism under Title 42, and individuals are being expelled more than once, number one. Number two, you cited the fact that 6,000 unaccompanied children were in CBP custody back in March. We are seeing only a fraction of that now, because we had a plan then. As I said then, it takes time to execute our plan. We have executed our plan, and the number is far different. Third, the smuggling of drugs are the greatest means of attempted transportation of drugs across the border are through the ports of entry, in trucks, in vehicles that can try to move large amounts. And we are apprehending more than before. And this began in October of last year because of the investment in technology and the focus on the ports of entry. We continue the work of the prior administration in that regard.
So, Mr. Secretary, do I take it from your answer then that your position is that we don't have a crisis at the southern border, that the surge is largely illusory, and we have no reason to be concerned? I mean, is that basically what you're saying here? There's no need to do anything differently because your policies are working? I mean, is that your answer? Your policies are working at the border?
That is a complete mischaracterization of what I said.
Are your policies working at the border?
What I have said before, and I repeat now.
Answer my question. Are your policies working at the border, Mr. Secretary? Yes or no? Are they working?
We have a plan. We are executing the plan. The plan takes time to execute, and we are doing so. And let me say this. What makes the plan more challenging is, number one, COVID, but we are working through that, and our plan addresses that challenge. And number
Wait a minute,
two,
COVID was at its height a year ago, Mr. Secretary, and with all due respect, we saw none of these numbers a year ago. This crisis has occurred under your tenure. COVID is not unique to your tenure. This is a crisis that you have engineered with your policies. Let me ask you about something you said to Senator Portman with regard to ICE
and if I may say one last.
It's absolutely not true. You said to Senator Portman, it's absolutely not true that ICE officers have been told not to arrest people. That's what you said earlier today. That astounds me because ICE officers have asked me to ask you about the instructions your guidance has given them not to arrest individuals. For instance, the National ICE Council, that's the ICE union, has asked me to ask you, because they can't get answers from you, so they're asking me to do it, to ask you why officers who've been ICE officers who've requested permission to go after an illegal alien who was convicted of sexual assault of a minor under 14 years of age were denied the ability to go and arrest this person. Senator Langford raised another case where ICE officers were directed not to pursue a previously deported alien who was convicted for indecency with a child by sexual contact and confined for 5 years. This is a registered sex offender, and ICE officers were told not to remove this criminal alien. Why is this happening? Are you not concerned about these kind of criminals being released onto the streets and hurting children again?
Senator, those types of criminals are a priority for arrest and removal. That is what the guidelines say. I cannot speak to the specific, if I may finish, Senator, I cannot speak to the particular.
I heard you give that answer to Senator Langford, but why can't you? You are the secretary. Why can't you speak to these specifics? Are you not in charge of your department? Why can ICE officers not get answers from you? Why is it they have to come to me to get answers from you? Because they don't know what to do. They're desperate for guidance. Why can't you speak to these issues, Mr. Secretary?
Senator, if I may answer your question, if you would give me a moment to answer your question. I cannot speak to facts that are not in front of me. I cannot speak to cases without looking at the files and speaking to them with knowledge of the evidence and the facts. And I'd be very happy to look at the case files that you refer to, number one. Number two, I have traveled around the country and met with ICE officers, and I have answered their questions. And the first thing that is my responsibility to do when I am engaging with the ICE workforce is to give the union representative the opportunity to speak. And I have visited Philadelphia and New York and Atlanta and New Orleans and San Antonio and Los Angeles. And never once has the head of the union asked me a question. Never once have I received an inquiry in writing or orally from the head of the union, Chris Crane. And if he should ask me a question, I shall answer it, because I have been answering the questions of the individuals whom he is responsible to represent.
I'll be happy to give you these case issues for the record, and I look forward to your response for the record. And I would just say, Mr. Mayorkas, however much an inconvenience it may be for you to answer questions from me or from other senators on this committee or from the union, the people who you are in charge of and you're supposed to be supervising, it is your job. And frankly, I don't care if it's an inconvenience, and I don't care if you don't like it. It is your job to do so. And the fact that you are not able and not willing to respond to these specific queries is troublesome to me, but I'll give them to you for the record, and I look forward to your response. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.